Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For the Minions, the weekly show where we talk about various upcoming third-person MOBAs that are Paragon-esque. But we do have we've got a packed show tonight. We've got the first stuff from Ethereal and Forever. Overprime, for the record, they said a whole bunch of new announcements and stuff. We got Predecessor announcing that they got their $20 million seed funding, and then Fault had a new patch. So, like, all four games coming in hot this week. It was a good decision to delay the show and start doing it now instead of trying to do it on Fridays, because that's when they release all the info, is Thursdays, Fridays. But they're going to start doing Monday, Tuesdays now. I know it. I just know it. But anyway, I'm your host, the Man Goose. Joining me, as always, is my friend and co-host, Jelly Knees. How you doing, Jelly?
I'm fantastic, Man Goose. I'm excited to talk about all the stuff today, honestly.
All the things,
and
yes.
I would just like to officially announce that all Ethereal announcements and everything is going to happen Tuesday, 5 minutes before the show goes live. So just so you're aware going forward that that's how it's going to be, then
just announce them on the show, Jelly.
No. Just to spite you, I'm going to wait.
And another regular around here, it is the Viking Jedi. How you doing, man?
I'm doing so good. I'm also equally excited. This show is packed full of stuff, and it was a lot of fun. We got to try some new things out. I'm really particularly excited to talk about the Ethereal stuff because I'm always bugging Jelly to give us an opportunity to talk more about it, to generate a little bit more hype. So the persistence has paid off. So we have I think some really cool stuff that Jelly's finally gonna crack open for us to be able to talk about. But yeah, everything is, I mean, they're all these guys are popping off with some stuff. So I'm really excited to get into it.
And if you do want to just skip around to whatever game you want, I do always have the timestamps down in the in a pinned comment below, so you can just go straight to whatever game you're interested in. I think this week, as you said, you're so excited about it, and we haven't had news from them in a long time. We're going to start off with Ethereal because we got to Jelly afforded Viking and I the opportunity to run around on their new map, and we can talk about some of it, but not all of it. So let's get into it. Jelly, what do you want to talk about? We'll just give our impressions of the various things that have changed around.
I mean, I think you kind of hit it off with a good one, is just the new map in general, right? Because the last that the communities played on was the old map where all the lanes looked fairly similar to each other, whereas this is now a dedicated fire, ice, and void lane that all have complete different feels to each other, all of those things. So I guess let's hit it off with that. But before you even get there, Mangoose, because I know what one of the things you're going to say is the lighting on Ice Lane. That's already a thing that's going to be worked on. I promise you it won't look as bright where Mangoose is complaining about it by the time the community at large gets their hands on it. But other than that, what did you guys think about the new map as a whole?
I was very surprised that I thought it was just going to be a coat of paint on the old map. No, it was actual changes to the map in general, and very good changes from what I could see. There's a lot of places that you can access without being a Sky Slayer or a Reaper class, being able to fly and climb and all that. But you can still be impactful and get that crazy verticality. That's kind of been the name of the game for Ethereal for a long time, was verticality, and that really shines through in this map as opposed to the old map. And then Ice Lane, of course, like you said, it was pretty, but a little too bright. And
but
then
pretty bright at the same time.
Yeah. And then Fire Lane looked pretty cool, and just everything was really cool in general. Everything seemed to be a little bit simplified from the old map. It seemed a little easier to get around and know where I was. But there was a lot of times where I was blocked off, which is intentional because you do have, classes that can take advantage of that verticality. Viking, what do you think of the map?
It was, I mean, for me, I haven't, seen or touched, anything Ethereal, and I think it was like a year and a half or something like that and so it was massive changes all across the board for me. But yeah, the map was it was a very welcomed change, and I think because I got like almost like drastic contrast from like when it was like the old map a year and a half ago to where it is now. It was like, I mean, I'm getting chills, to be honest, just thinking about it. Like, it was a huge difference. And it was Very, very cool. I mean, I wish the void lane was more voidy. No, I'm just joking. It's totally fine. I need more like void portals and, like, I don't know, like some like dripping void goo or something
Needs
on
more
trees or
purple.
something.
Needs
Yeah,
more
yeah, it needs
purple.
more purple, more purple. No, but
Everybody knows that
honestly,
purple equals void.
it does. It absolutely does. No, it was cool. It looked really, really good. I did. I only got lost, I think, a couple times, and then I was blessed to have Jelly showing me around, so I did not get lost. And showing me some of the cool new things that were added. But I mean, my favorite thing about Ethereal was the uniqueness of the map to begin with. Well, not my favorite thing, but it was one of the cooler things that I liked. I really liked the idea of the map, and so the visual upgrades, some of the more like things where they carved it out and made it a little bit more simple, I think is a welcome change. And I didn't notice the ice lane being as bright as maybe Mangoose. I don't know what kind of settings he has on, but I didn't have as much of a. I didn't need to put like my sunglasses on when I went there, but it was brighter than like Void Lane for example. But Fire Lane looks really, really cool. I think Fire Lane really hits the nail on the head as far as like giving that like scorched earth kind of vibe, and the tones are really, really rich and cool in that regard. You definitely feel like you're in Fire Lane. I mean, you do in Ice Lane too, but I don't know, the visceralness of the Fire Lane is really, really neat. So I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Ice Lane is mostly like a color palette change. Not mostly. I mean, the assets are different, but like from terms of feel from like void to ice, you're like, okay, things are icy and snowy and all right, fine. And then you
Yeah,
go over to Fire Lane and you're like scorched trees and little
yeah,
twigs on the ground and little
yeah.
and embers coming off of things and like yeah, like I think fire is a easier motif to capture in that way.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it looks absolutely incredible. And I mean, for me, I've been working off of this map for however long at this point, right? So I went back to the old map because we still have access to it,
Yeah.
and like looked at it again before this show and was just kind of like, oh yeah, no, this was not nearly as good as the new map. Like, like
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I
everything's
think
kind of one note. It's really brown. Like it's
I,
really brown in comparison. Like, and so it's really cool to see how far the team has come on the new map across the board for sure.
Right. I mean, we made the joke, or I don't know which one of you, me or you, said it, but it was like, yeah, we've been working on stuff for like while you've been gone. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's true. Yeah, it's definitely not like they were just sitting on their laurels for the last year and a half and didn't actually touch anything. No, but it was super cool. I obviously can't wait for everybody to get a chance to experience it for themselves. But if I can pass on anything, just as an authentic person who got to view it, the time spent is being well done, and obviously they're still working and fine tuning things, and that's obvious. Lighting issues, obviously, apparently. But no, it looks cool, man. It looks really, really cool.
Cool.
And
And then
then
the other big thing that you guys were able to look at now, and it's a first iteration of like implementation for it, is the new UI that we've been working on,
Oh yeah,
um, which is completely overhauled from the ground up. The whole system's being rebuilt. The design is completely different. Basically, we've got the similar like layout of things, like the buffs are in the same place and the abilities are in the same place and stuff like that. But otherwise, the design is completely different. And so, what were your guys' feelings on the new UI and thereof full customization of the UI?
you want me to go first, Bingus?
yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the big thing for me is I love, and we've talked about this a lot in FTM and beta mails. Whenever you give the player the opportunity to customize things for themselves, to make the experience unique to how they like it. A lot of like MMOs do a really good job of this, or whether that's natively through their game, or through modifications or something like that. So if you've played like World of Warcraft, or you've played like Final Fantasy, or some of those games where you can like move things around and resize stuff, it's really cool. It feels nice, and I wish more games did that. And this, there's still some fine tuning that needs to go in place, and we talked about that, right? And but it was amazing being able to make the spells and health bar a little bit smaller, because I didn't need it to be as big as it is normally on my screen. Be able to make the map a little bit bigger or make it a little bit smaller. Being able to do those things on the fly is also super, super cool. So yeah, I love anything where you can customize it and make it your own and make it feel how you want it, because any game where it locks you into having it one way or the highway, it sometimes it doesn't match for everybody, and so being able to make it match essentially for everybody was very welcome. I didn't expect it, to be honest. So when you told me that was something that we were going to get to play test, I was blown away that was even something that was like an important feature for you guys, because I know we've talked about it before as something that is neat in other games, like again talking about MMOs, but I don't know of any. I guess Smite does it a little bit, right? But like, and none of the other games that I play have that amount of customization. So it was really cool.
Yeah, it was really nice being able to
go ahead, Mangus.
move everything around everywhere and resize everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really cool. Jedi hit on that. I guess me being the more experienced Ethereal player, I'll talk about some of the actual changes to the UI. Like the active wheel, it was like off to the side of the main UI, you have 4 actives in Ethereal. You have your potions, you have if you've got a juggle item, then that's an active, and you got your battle spells and your familiars and all that. And that was on like this like 4-cornered sort of wheel sort of thing on the side. And I really like that, just having all the actives right there in one area and knowing what the cooldowns are on everything. So that was really nice. The map was really well done. It was if you played in the other test, you know that you could only see your lane whenever you're on the map, and unless you hit the M button or if you scrolled through the different lanes. But the new one, it's like you've got the whole map there, but whatever lane you're on is raised up and a bit more highlighted, so you know which lane you're looking at, which lane you're on, but you can still see what's going on in the other lanes, which is a huge quality of life improvement. And you can still click through and see and highlight the other lanes if you want to do that. And you can still hit M and see a larger portion of the map. Like all that's still there, but now you have, even if you didn't need it back in that first iteration of it, everybody missed it. Everybody missed having a full mini map on the right side. And now if it's too big, you just make it smaller. If you think it's too small, you make it bigger. It's the full customization it's going to be really good for streamers too. I just thought of that.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, because people like to, they have their camera in a certain location, and if that's cut, and a lot of times it's covered up chat or something like that, you can just move that shit now. You can just move and resize until you have your camera in a good location. And then me being the weirdo that I am, I like. Back in my Warcraft days, I had everything centered on my hero so that I could see everything going on. So I pulled my bottom bar up to about the middle of the screen, about halfway up of who I was looking at, and that way I didn't have to look away at all. I didn't have to look down or anything to see exactly what the cooldowns of my abilities were, and I really like that. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I'm going to record like that because people are going to be like, "What a fucking weirdo," but I think if I'm actually playing like seriously, that's probably what I'll do. I'll probably pull my bar up there, and everybody's going to have some weird shit that they do and that they like to do, and and it's just, having the full customization is just fantastic. There's nothing you could say bad about having a fully customizable UI.
100%. Yeah. You give me more control? How fucking dare you? Yeah. You piece of shit. I can't stand that. No. Yeah. Like sorry, just one quick thing.
No, you're fine. You're good. Go ahead.
So I forgot to put this in there, but I will say that the only thing I think I would add now that I get to be greedy about it is opacity feature. And I don't know if that's something that's going to be coming, and you can maybe talk on that if you're allowed to, but that would be nice, because I think, like, to Mangus's point, being able to like make the map bigger, that's more ideal for me. I like to try to keep an eye on everything that's going on, but I also don't want it to be like this big block that's blocking off a lot of my vision. Even if it's not, it just would make me think that it is. And so if I had the ability to, like, lower some of the opacity and make it so it's a little bit more see-through, I think that would be, again, being greedy here. It's already really good, but if I could be greedy, I think that would be the only add-on that I would ask for at this point. But no, it was really cool. But sorry, Jelly, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
Oh, you're good. I mean, so for that in particular, right? And a lot of the like comments you guys have had about this is the first iteration of this, right? This is the kind of like, go in, see how it works, see what players think kind of iteration, get the feedback, and then iterate on accordingly. So that kind of stuff is perfect. And like, I can send that to the team about the opacity and some of these other things as well. But like the funny thing for me was I knew the new UI was getting worked on, getting implemented, right? Then it got implemented and they're like, "Oh, by the way, it's fully customizable." And I was like, "Oh, you guys, like yes." Like I was, cuz that's something we've always talked about wanting to do. It's very similar to Smite, right? Is having that fully customizable UI. But it's always been kind of the like you kick further down the road of like yes, we want to do it, but right now other things, right?
Sure.
And so when they told us that like it's fully customizable, I was like, dude, here we go, right? Like I was so stoked. Because like for me, I know what items I have, right? So that item section in the bottom right of the UI, I'll make that thing teeny tiny. And if I need to reference it, I can still with the images be like, oh, okay, I have these items. Make that teeny tiny, bring the mini map up massive on my screen, right? The whole 9 yards. Right. So I love the customizable UI. Like that to me is just one of the big that's a like you said, it's one of those features that who's going to complain about customization, right? Who can go in there and be like, I hate that I can move this wherever I want it to be, right? Nobody. So
it
that
shouldn't be
huge feature. I mean, people will find a way, I'm sure.
I was just gonna say, there's somebody who's gonna complain about it.
Even now, someone in the comments, I hate customization.
You shut up, okay? No,
but yeah,
funny.
absolutely huge feature, and one of another big quality of life improvement for players that we added in recently that I know Mangoose experienced more of, but I know you and I, Viking, got to see from the other perspective is targeting indicators or area of effect indicators. Yes. So before, I'll give Mangoose an image to put up on screen of kind of what they looked like before. They were this fairly like translucent bubble on the field that was really easy to lose. And then when the ability went off, and that was just for casting. And then when the ability went off, there was nothing on the ground telling you whatever size it was, anything like that. Whereas now they're really distinct. So there's green and red, depending on if you're casting the ability or if it's active and doing damage. And so Mangoose, since you experienced it the most, I'll let you kind of talk about your thoughts and feelings with those.
100% better with the targeting indicators. The old ones had like this weird swirly color thing to them, and you couldn't tell where the back of your fucking targeting reticle was. Like if it was a circular area, you didn't know how far it's extending. You just it was very clear this time. We can't talk about a lot of the heroes we played, but I think I can talk about Talos. Everybody knows about Talos. I played a bit of Talos, and just his for his ultimate, that was extremely hard for me to target in the past. Super easy this time. Just a really clear indicator. Yeah, Jedi can atone for that. And then another thing, people just would often underestimate his bleed. He does like a 360 spin with his axe that applies a bleed, and it's huge. I tell people that all the time, like, that bleed is fucking huge. Poke with it. And now you can see it. You can see that, like, not only can you see it, but the enemy team can see it as well. Like they know that if you get anywhere near him, he's gonna bleed the shit out of you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
They look so much better. And like Jelly said, they're green whenever you're targeting, and then they go red. That his I think his bleed was instant cast, so it was just always red for me. But still, it was nice to see that line, that indication.
Yeah, again, for me, huge quality of life feature.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I mean, for me, it was getting to witness it going off around me as Mangoose was killing me. But no, it was funny, guys. Like when we were going through this, like it was just like a couple times where it's like, whoa, like we're just like, because he was like, Mangoose like ran into, I think we were in fire lane, and he like ran into fire lane. He's like, Viking, look at this, and he did the spin thing, and I was like, dude, I can see it. He's like, I know. It was so funny. And I want to go back to, because it was really funny. These guys both like got into lane like super fast, and I'm sitting there messing with the UI, and I'm sitting there like, dude, this is so cool. You can move this, and I'm trying to give feedback. These guys are in lane farming, so I get to lane, by the way, and I'm like 4 levels behind both of them, and they just decimate. And it was 1v2, so I was the only one on mine. But yeah, no, the reticle, being able to see around, it was really cool. I wish I actually got to see what it would look like, because like when you cast the ultimate, like do you see where you're going to land when you cast it, or yes. Yeah, so that, I mean, That's huge because it's like if you were ever questioning, like, am I aiming this correctly? I don't know, or whatever. If you haven't gotten familiar with it, or if you're a new player, having like a clear indicator of where you're going to be and the range and all that stuff, that's always good. Again, giving more information and power to the players and the enemy team too, because hey, he just used his big, thing. I know now I can engage with him, like, or whatever, and he's not going to put that stupid bleed on me or less of it.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
no,
so,
good.
there are like 9, I think it's right now 9 different shapes of what that indicator will look like, both for casting and for when the damage is actually being dealt. I think it's 9. But like and it's takes verticality into account.
Mm,
So if, for instance, like Leah's crashing dive, right, knocks characters into the air and does damage in a certain area, that is a sphere, right? That actually affects the damage is applied in a sphere when she lands. So you can see there's a actual like top part of the circle of the height that is there when the players are going to cast the ability. But
that's
for
so
like
cool.
Talos are, which is just on a flat plane on
Right.
either side of him, it's just a circle on the ground. There is no top circle showing you the height of the ability. So it's all adjustable. It's all adjusted to fit whatever ability it's on and give the indicator that makes the most sense for that ability as well.
Yeah,
That's so neat.
targeting everything felt far more intuitive than it had in the past. And I did play some Leah too, and just that was a problem before. Was her R, her fly up in the air and then crash down or crashing dive. It was very hard to target before. You never knew where the hell you're going to hit with it, and now you
Mhm.
do. Now you do.
And I've given Mangoose a video to show of, I think it's Leah and Talos a little bit, showing what those indicators look like.
Okay,
Neat.
right on.
That'll be
Um,
cool.
you want to move on to the? Okay, we've already talked about. I think we've already talked about everything then, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you guys want to give just like kind of final thoughts on your recent experience with Ethereal as a whole, that works for me.
I mean, I guys, okay, so I don't want there to be like all much like a censor, coming up, over me because I don't want anything to get taken out. But I got to play a character, and I love this character so much, and I want to talk about it so bad. But I worry that I'm going. That's the only thing I would want to touch on is to hint about
Character.
that. Yeah, because it was just overall a very, very cool. And I mean, so this is something that we've talked about a lot, and at least I felt, and maybe people on FTM haven't heard me talk about it, but like Ethereal's myths and like the uniqueness and the way that they have approached like each of the myths and making them feel, impactful in their own way, and having it's like it's obviously a core part of the game, and I love that. I like feeling like, when we talk a lot of these like, para zombies, like, a lot of times we're just talking about ones that have been around for years at this point and we're all very familiar with them. But the myths are none of that. They're all unique to an extent with all things, and they're changing and improving and all that stuff. So it's like, getting a chance to touch one of these guys that's brand new and get to, yeah. So that's the only thing I want to do is talk a little bit, if it's allowed to, about that stuff. But I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
I think you've hit on as much as I am allowed to let you say. So
Dang it! I'm sorry,
I
guys.
might throw some visual effects over him when he's talking about the hero he wanted to play. Yeah, just the game has come like that. You could definitely tell that Undying Games listened to the last closed beta test. They've done insane improvements on how the game feels. It feels a lot more
Mhm.
polished now. I will say, just like always, though, the animations suck. That's the biggest thing that they need to do. But the visual fidelity of the game is a lot better. The targeting is a lot better. The map is designed better, and not only does it look better, it's designed better. And yeah, everything is coming up there. If once they can get the animations down a little better, I think they're going to have a hit on their hands.
I
It'll be
agree.
fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, even like talking about UI, like some of the, not going into too much detail, but like even the improvements of the menu itself that when you load into the game. Um, I don't know how much the players that got to test that out or how much they've seen, but it's wildly different than when I played it a year and a half ago. So I mean, for me, these guys were laughing at me because I hadn't touched the game in so long that when I got in there, it was just like bombarded with all new stuff, and I was just like excited. I mean, even for a couple days afterwards, I've been just chomping at the bits to want like wait, I've been bugging Jelly. I've been guys, I'm fighting so hard to be able to talk about ethereal stuff. You guys have no idea. I'm asking him, wait, what if we talk a little bit about that? Is that even allowed? I mean, because they're very hush hush, and I get it. I understand why, but it's like, man, I just want people to be as hyped as I am right now about the possibilities. What about the minions? Are we allowed to talk about the minions in comparison to how they were?
I mean, yeah, the minions existed in the prior test.
Oh, did they? I mean, for me, the minions before were like the worst. Like they would just be. They didn't look good, in my opinion. They moved really jinkily, and like you'd be random on how to be able to set up pushes or not set up pushes. Now it feels pretty good if you're like a tactical guy like me, and we talked about this like with Overprime, right? Like having minions mean something. I think in Ethereal minions right now, I mean, I didn't get to play a lot, but it felt like they could mean something. Like you could actually set up a push and feel like you're able to control the game through smart minion play, and I thought that was really neat. And then of course I was blown away again by the scale, the way the game feels like when you jump off the cliff and go from ice lane into, oh my god, it's so I said I wanted a superhero pose when you land because it just it feels that cool when you're like, instead you just go like that. I feel like you need something when you fall from that far.
Just
like I don't
play Leah an R dive at the very end.
Yeah, waste the cooldowns that way you can look cool
Play
when you
Talos
get there.
and ult just before you hit the ground.
I'm just saying, like, again, one of those things that'll get kicked down the road, but like, cool landings, let's throw that into the mix.
I prefer cool runnings.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
All right. Are we done talking about Ethereal?
I mean, I guess so, Mangoose. God.
We've been talking about it for a while now. We need to move on.
Fine. There's like all these other games.
That's my job here. That's what I do. I keep things rolling. So let's move on. Let's talk about Predecessor. Now they announced this after we had already recorded the last for the minions, but and it's something that we actually knew about for a while, but they had officially announced that they have received another $20 million in seed funding. That's in addition to the $2 million that they had already raised, and then the Epic grant and everything. So they are they're bringing in a lot of money to make Predecessor, and it's good to see. Jelly, what are your thoughts on this?
Kind of like you said, this announcement. Okay, actually, I will talk about this in two parts. The announcement of getting 20 million, like you said, we've known for a while, right? We even referenced back to where we found out, and that information came out in around January. And even if we didn't find out in January, we found out within a month probably afterwards. So, Mangus, you and I have kind of been like, oh, okay, sure. Like, yeah, we knew about this, but it's good you're finally telling everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
To flip it, the announcement itself was beyond stupid. To go on Twitter, no, this pisses me off. To go on Twitter and tell people, big announcement tomorrow, and then get people super hyped for Predecessor, knowing what hype they have for the game, and then to just announce, we got more money, is so, like, that is bad. That is bad. Like, that is just getting people's hopes up just to kind of get them to be like, okay, and like, and what, and you got more money and the game comes out tomorrow.
And
you got more money
and this money's going to get a console. That's what people want to hear. Yeah, they want to hear.
Yeah, and we got more money,
console, all that stuff. Yeah,
it just to make such a big push on your community to be excited about an announcement, to just have it be something that benefits the company instead of benefiting the players, technically, is just, to me, that just feels bad. I was
100%.
pissed. Dude, when the announcement came out and that's what it was, I was so angry. I was sitting at work being like, what? Like, this is what you guys do? Yeah.
I was also hoping for a lot more, especially when I saw what it was. I was like, I already knew that. Like,
yes.
I kind of had that feeling. Viking, what did you think of the announcement?
I mean, I wasn't obviously as pissed as you guys were. I guess as Jelly,
pissed,
yeah, you weren't pissed. You weren't pissed. You were annoyed though. You were a little let down by it.
I was a little let down. I was kind of actually a little bit relieved because when like we recorded for the Minions, and then they said that they're going to have this huge
Oh, yeah.
announcement. And I was like, oh God, am I going to miss something huge for the Minions? And then I saw what it was. I was like, oh, we've already talked about this for the Minions. Like, okay. I was like, whew.
I mean, I echo a lot of the points that Jelly's making. I mean, to me, if I was in charge of it, right? Like, because this is the truth of it. Getting the money is a good thing for the game, which is eventually supposed to be good for the players, right? We all get that. We're not dumb. We understand what this means for the game, right? It's going to hopefully, well, if everything goes well, be used to make the game the best version that they can possibly put out, and then some, right? Like that, securing these funds is a good thing overall. But again, being an announcement, like, they did the meme of, like, being in a big deal, like, and so, yeah, hype was generating. We were, like, again, very worried, like, man, we've already recorded. Should we, like, reschedule? Like, we maybe just added in at the, we had a whole thought process about it because we cover this stuff. And then it was like, oh, you just got more money. Like, cool, I guess. For me, it was really funny watching, like, the predecessor, like, fanboy shills or whatever, being like over the top, like this was such a big cool announcement for them, like they were like just as invested in it as the company getting that money. It's like, bro, the check's not coming to you. You're not cashing that bad boy.
That's a whole different announcement.
Yeah, no, it's like, so I guess if I was in charge of their marketing, I probably would have teased it with something else. Like it could have been almost anything. Like literally it could have just been like a short, like, video of gameplay or something that's new that the players maybe hadn't seen since the last playtest, showcasing something along with the announcement. Like, hey, we just got this huge amount of funding. We're so excited because we're going to not only be able to continue making the game, but be able to provide you guys with stuff like this. And through that, they showcase, like, I mean, it could have been a 30-second clip and people would have been happy, but they didn't do anything. Literally nothing. It's just like, we got $20 million. You guys are still working your 9-to-5 jobs. Hey, plebs. Like, I'm just saying, like, it just felt like almost like a fuck you in a way from a marketing standpoint. Like, it just, like, all this hype was building up. And it was just like, for any of us who are just interested in the game, I at least I felt like it was just like, oh, okay, now what?
It is good to see them getting all this money, though, because we do know, we've seen examples of them using the money that they're getting from this funding in a way that benefits us as players, because we saw that the stress test that they had in, like, August of last year, back-end problems galore, and people weren't able to get into the thing, and they didn't even get a chance to really stress test the servers because their back-end just blew out. But they used the money that they've gained to hire Excelbyte, which a company that specializes in back-end support, and their last closed beta test went extremely smooth, like way better. So we do see that they are making choices with this money and spending it wisely. So I'm happy to see them get more money, because I'm wondering what else they're going to use it for.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully they're going to speed up hero production. That's what I want to do. Oh, more heroes, baby.
I mean, so on that note, Mangoose, I think Vikings got a great point of putting it with something small, right? If they hadn't announced Decker's kit, right? Being like, we've got $20 million in extra funding. Oh, by the way, here's Decker's kit.
Yeah.
Right? Bam. Perfect. That's a good announcement. That is a big announcement that gets the community excited for more than just something the company benefits from, right? And that, or great, they've announced Decker's kit. Now show us how her new ability works. Show us how she plays. Show us her Decker bombing somebody. Show us gameplay footage of Decker at that point that you can then use as the and something else portion of that announcement.
Yeah,
I think, and there's definitely a part of it that comes from being Ethereal's community manager, right? And making these posts for Ethereal. If I had queued up a post that with, like, big day tomorrow, right? Like, super, like, got the community excited, and it was something like that, I would have been raked over the coals in Ethereal's community. Like, there's no question about it.
I would have raked you over the coals.
And so it's, to me, knowing that that's the reaction I would have gotten, I'm pissed seeing other people do that exact thing. right? Because I'm like, that would never fly for me, right? And there's an aspect that that's not the best way to be thinking about it, but at the same time, like it's that to me again, it just feels like you pulled the rug out on your community after you got them to stand on it. Like, here, come over here, and then oh, look at that, we got more money, yay! Like it
I
feels
think that's
bad.
the big part, right? Because it's like, again, they could have not even teased that they were going to do an announcement. Like they could have just done, hey, we just secured 12, and people would have been like, oh, cool. And we would have been like, oh, hey, like you guys already knew about it, but for those of us who are just normal plebs, we probably would have just been like, oh, hey, that's good. And I wouldn't have really anything bad to say about it. I'd probably be like, hey, you know what? They've got a good track record of using money well. They've been kind of getting by and making a great game despite not having $20 million. What can they do now that they have that? Like, what's the next steps on that? I can't wait to hear the next piece of news. But given that, like, teaser on their social medias to generate purposely, it's obviously on purpose to generate more hype and get people to stand on the carpet like you're talking about, and then to literally offer nothing else other than a business announcement. That's what this comes down to. It's a business announcement. Despite their track record, we don't know that this $20 million is going to do anything to improve the game overall. For all we know, it could just go to bonuses for the guys at the top who've, been, doing the things that guys at the top do. I don't fucking know. I'm just saying, like, I don't think that's the case. Obviously, I'm memeing a little bit here. I do think that they're going to invest into the game very well, and it's probably going to be great. They're going to get maybe better servers or more servers, or do invest in more art and doing all the things that we want to see from the game overall, and maybe announce some real shit coming up as far as like whether we're going to do another test before early access. When is early access? Console, like, but they didn't do. Again, I know we're beating a dead horse, but they didn't do any of that. You could have just done a cinematic of them fucking running around on a newer version of the map with more lighting or something, and all of us would have been like, hey, that map looked slightly different than it did, last time we saw it. It's like 3 shades darker. What's coming? Was that the big announcement? I don't know. We would have had content for weeks, but now it's just they got $20 million.
Yeah. It's good news. It's big news.
Of course it is. Yeah.
It's not the thing. People want to know heroes. They want to know console. They want to know playtest times. That's the really big news that people are really looking forward to and hyped about. And I think that's what a lot of people thought that this announcement was going to be, was another CBT, and it was the money, which is good. There's nothing bad about them getting that money. It's only great for the game. And it's going to be fun to see how they use that money to improve Predecessor.
It's just boring.
But
it's boring.
Let's move on from that. Let's move on over to Overprime. So Overprime, in the time since our last For the Minions, they released their For the Record 5, which usually they have about 3 or 4 of their team members in these For the Record sort of community corners that they do. This time it was just Ranger, but there was a lot more just straight up information coming out of this one, I think, than the ones where they have more members of the team. Some stuff that I can remember right off the top of my head. They have the Shadow Wells and bushes. That's going to go away. They're just going to have bushes. So the Shadow Wells, they serve the same function. They just look a little bit different. To avoid confusion, they're just bushes all the way through. They're going to be adding more heroes faster. They're going to add, 60 new items before early release. New ways for anti-cheat. They didn't. One of the things that Ranger was saying, he didn't expect so many people to be hacking their game so early on. And they did ban a lot of people during the stress test, but they were mainly talking about the things that the lessons learned from the second CBT and how those lessons will be applied to early access. So Viking Jedi, what do you think of this of the For the Record?
I mean, it's almost the opposite of what I felt with Predecessor. Like it's a unexpected amount of information in a big good way. Like I mean, without going into all the details of all the stuff they released, I mean, because Mango's touched on a good portion of them, and I would encourage any of you, if you liked Overprime and you haven't seen it yet, go watch the video. It's a good video. I think I just keep going back to, when we talk a lot about like the survivability of these games and who's going to make it out and who's going to do, something with the hype that is generating from here. We keep going back to Overprime and we keep going back to Predecessor. And I feel like Overprime just manages to do a really good job consistently, at least since I've been following them, to listen to what the players are saying and provide pointed feedback to those things. we talked about, needing more items. We talked about the map and what they wanted to do as far as making it easier to understand and clearer. And I mean, is it a massive change to go from the wells to bushes? No, but me and Convey spent like 2 hours figuring out how vision worked in our lane because we're like, well, you have the well, you have the bushes, they don't cross over. So if I put a ward here, I don't have that warded. So where's the best places and where's the greedy wards? Where's the safe ward? Like all that stuff. So it matters to people. It mattered to me. It mattered to so hearing them acknowledge and understand that that's a big part of their game, it makes sense. Even if it's a smaller thing. Like, is it the game breaking? No, but it was impactful and it was cool to see that they are addressing it. So I think from a community to dev and dev to community, I like how aggressive they are about addressing things and talking about them. I loved hearing him talk about the hacking. I loved him talking about the game as a whole and like how he was very much playing. Him and all the team members were playing in the playtest. They were there getting their asses handed to them apparently by some really good players, which was exciting and it's cool. I don't know. So like from those things, and I know Predecessor's a little bit, close their mouth about some of the stuff. I think though with the hype generation, the Overprime does they give give good amount of information without giving away everything. And like when we had Sarjog on last, like he talked about some of that stuff. Like there's some things that are absolutely behind closed doors and they're not allowed to talk about it, and they will release that stuff. But the stuff that they can talk about, they talk about in detail. They talk about at length. They give good indicators, and then they ask for stuff back from us. Like, hey, what did you think about that? And we want to hear you. And they talked about reading the forums all the time. They're saying we're always in the Discord reading it, and we want to know what you guys think. Keep talking and I was like, dude, that's so cool. I don't know. So like just from that perspective alone, again, all the information that's in the video itself, you should watch. It's really cool stuff. But I just love the communication aspects of it. I like that they're that proactive, especially since the CBT, knowing that they generated a decent amount of hype on that game, bigger than their previous one. Like there's a lot of people that are involved in this. I'm just happy to see it, and that the translation from Korea to English isn't losing in anything. Like they're doing a really good job of now, because I know before we were like, wait, this like is full of like grammar errors, and we're not sure if that is that saying what we think it is. The clarity is starting to come through too, and so that means to me that we are an important metric for them. We're an important market for them, and so they're doing their best to facilitate that we understand what they're working on too. And I just have lots of kudos for that. I want more because I'm a greedy bitch, but I'm happy with what they are giving so far. What about you, Jelly? I've been monologuing for a bit.
No, I completely agree. I think the thing I'm most excited for is the items. 60 items is a lot of items.
Yeah.
And I imagine some of those are like tier 1s and 2s.
Sure.
Right. But even if a third of that is tier 3s, right, that's huge. Right. That's gonna change how a lot of characters play, given some of the holes that exist in itemization right now. And so I'm really, really, really excited for those. And like you said, Viking, is they are really transparent about the things they can be transparent about. They go into detail. They talk about it. They're not afraid to talk about their mistakes, which I think is huge, right? And we've seen in the past from some of these other companies that there is that fear to talk about the mistake, right? It's kind of the like, yes, that happened, but we're going to shove it over here so you forget about it. And here, look, shiny stuff, right? And I think it's cool to see them take a different approach to that and not be afraid to show those aspects, or at least talk about those aspects of like the cheaters, right? That he was surprised to see how many people were cheating. Was cheating a problem? Absolutely. But he's not afraid to talk about the fact that there were cheaters in his game, right? And I think that's a cool thing for sure.
And some of the other things I want to touch on real quick. He was talking about better optimization for the tutorial and a simplification of the tutorial. If you played Overprime, you know that's the first thing you saw was the tutorial, and it was horribly optimized, and a lot of people tuned their settings down way more than they needed to, because the actual game itself was far better optimized than the tutorial. So that was a problem that needed fixed, and I guess they are fixing it. And the other thing too, they were talking about rank mode when in early access, and they were talking about, and this is a problem that he was discussing that the other games just don't have and Overprime does. having a population of old Paragon players, and have a population of brand new people that know nothing about the game. You don't get a lot of that in Fault or Predecessor. It's mainly a bunch of Paragon fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with Overprime, you get people from like all over. It's nice to see them having to deal with that problem, because that's a good problem to have if you have that many people coming in that have never played Paragon before. I think that's probably mainly on the Asian servers. I think most of the EA and NA servers are probably old para refugees like us. But he was talking about having like a quick match, placement matches, and then ranked. So a lot of people want ranked as soon as possible. I don't know. I think they're going to have to get some more heroes in there before they have a proper ranked. But we will see. The other thing that was in their work in progress, new kill streak notification, which I thought was really cool. It actually shows a picture of the hero and then the pentakill. It's like a big production. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I love it. It's so cool looking. It is. I mean, they do, but that's like their bread and butter at this point, right? Like, we know they're gonna make shit look cool, like almost too much. Like, it's almost like, oh, that's bright, like, or whatever, you know. But in isolation, just on there, it looks awesome. Like, I obviously. How much is that gonna look when we're playing one? I have to get a pentakill to know, you know, at this point. You know, I mean, because I get those all the time, so it won't even be a big deal or no problems. But no, it's just, again, it further them, like, to me, solidifying, like, hey, we make stuff look awesome. And it does. Again, see, this is the thing that's weird to me with Overprime, is it's like, I never know where they're going to come with something. Like, I would have not pegged, like, when you're at this stage of the game, I guess, in their design, like, that would be still something that they're concerned about, because I didn't notice it was a bad or good thing before. Like, it was just whatever. It was fine. Like, it was just, somebody died. Cool. But the fact that they were like, no. We want to make this better because we want it to look cool. Like, and maybe they did get feedback. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the comments can say, like, oh, I want that to look cooler. But I didn't personally feel that way. It wasn't, lacking. It wasn't exceeding. It was just whatever for me. But now I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to see it, because it does. It puts you, again, it rewards you with that feeling. And so I can't wait to see it for real.
Jelly?
Yeah, I mean, having fanfare whenever a player does something is always good.
Yeah,
right? Because it incentivizes the players to want to strive to do that thing again, right? Whatever it is. So pentakill, for instance.
You didn't want to get pentakills before,
no, but when you get a pentakill, it's already a good feeling. And then when the game like recognizes you and it's like, this person, dude, they're a god.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
that's
true.
where you're like, oh, okay, I want the whole game to know I'm a god again. Like, let's go. Right? Yeah. I don't want to just be the only person in the room that knows I'm good. I want everyone to know I'm good.
That's the point of playing video games. Shit.
Exactly. Got to style on kids all day long. So absolutely incredible. I mean, the other thing they put out was kind of their developer play tests it was on the Monolith map, which was just a complete test map. That's not the map we're getting that they've talked about, at least. But that was also cool to see. And there's a lot of little things in there that are new or changed or adjusted, right, to be better or look more professional, which I think is always a good thing as well.
Yeah, whenever you guys are, I'm sure a lot of people looked at this map at this the dev playtest. You have to just completely discount the map. Like, people were, I saw people getting into the weeds with the map. It's a test map. It's not the map that they're going to use. I guess they played and recorded specifically because they didn't want to give away what their new map would be, but this is not the map. You are not going to see this map in the game. What you need to be paying attention to here is there was a lot of improved particle effects, or improved I guess that's subjective, but I thought that they were improved at least. And then the other thing I really noticed was improved hero movement. They showed Gideon going up and down stairs, and instead of just the flat run animation, he was actually, you see this in Predecessor a lot. Predecessor does a insanely good job with just regular movement animations for their heroes. And you saw it a little bit with Gideon in Overprime this time. He digs in when he's running up the steps, and he kind of leans back and shuffles when he's kind of going down the steps. So it's nice to see them adding in some nice little finishing touches and improvements. I do believe they have a lot to improve. Like, the game is fun and there's a lot of cool shit in it, but there's definitely room for improvement, and they are making those improvements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was, when I was watching it, to me it seemed like one of the devs wanted to show off their juking skills, because it just felt like there was like lots of moments where like somebody would like jump over them and they would run the opposite way, and then they'd use their Gideon teleport to go up on there and be like, hey, you can't follow. Like, it was just, so it's like they got somebody like Jelly Knees on there, like, you just wanting to show off their plays or something like that. But no, I mean, it was cool to see. Like, obviously we hope that a lot of the stuff that they're play testing on as far as the map is concerned, do make their way in some way, whether it's just aesthetically or again, some of those animation aspects, because I thought it looked cool. Like, I'm excited for their idea to take, the assets of the two maps and kind of mixing them together and coming up with their own, I guess, way of doing it, because I think that it can look cool. Obviously we'll have to see, but yeah, it was, to me, it just looked like one of the guys was wanting to put together a highlight reel, and he did, because there's a lot of juking going on, but it looked good and it got me hyped up and I want to play the game. And it's funny because like we talk about like Overprime and Predecessor a lot, and I think those are the two big ones. I'm leaving Ethereal out of this because it's almost like not really a parazombie at this point in my eyes. I think it's its own thing and it's going to have its own player base, but I'm starting to feel like Overprime feels like when we play Splitgate, and Predecessor feels a lot more like playing like a more traditional, like slower, where Splitgate's like it's fun because it's like fast paced and kind of crazy and and wild, and you're gonna have like ridiculous plays and then have ridiculous plays done to you. I feel like that's what Overprime is gonna be like, whereas Predecessor is gonna be a little bit more like the old school bread and butter of this is a MOBA and we are going to push minions and you need to group for objectives or whatever, like and but that also makes me excited. I feel like Overprime is trying really hard to be different, like for better or for worse, we'll see, right? But I think they're pushing themselves, I think, even farther with some of these more releases, and as they continue to talk to us about how their game is eventually going to be in early access. I feel like they acknowledge that they're coming from a Paragon background. Like, and that's the other thing that I really like. I feel like when we talk about some of the other games, saying the P word is like somehow like a bad thing. They acknowledge, like, hey, you know what? We liked Paragon, but we also understand the failings that were Paragon. We don't want to recreate those same things. We understand that Predecessor exists. Like, they're not scared to acknowledge and at least they putting it out there that they're not scared about these things and acknowledging that they exist. I think that's cool. I'm excited to see where they go. I'm excited to see what Predecessor does with their 20 mil. I can't wait for that stuff. But yeah, it's really cool seeing the two, like almost like yin and yang at this point of the approaches to the two games, because they're supposed to be in the same genre. But I'm starting to feel, other than some of the assets looking similar, really like they're not, and I'm excited for that personally.
I mean, so in this dev playtest, the big thing that I noticed that I am 99% sure was not in the CBT that we played before is they had a different style of enemy behind you notification that I love. I think is fantastic. Paragon had this, and it's if you have vision behind you, or like on your minimap via minions, wards, whatever it is, right? There's a notification that tells you like there's something off your screen nearby you, right? And in Paragon, they have the little circles that would go to the edge of your screen depending on where the location of the person was, whether it be ally or enemy. I think that's great. That works for what it needs to do. But for Overprime, they had like a little 90-degree wedge that gave you like a general like direction behind you that showed it was when Gideon's running away from Rampage. That when he's running up the steps, there's like this little 90-degree wedge behind him, showing him that Rampage is behind him. But the second Rampage gets up in front of him, it goes away. I'm like, that's
a clip. Cool. I didn't notice that.
It's a cool little
Mangoose.
thing. Yeah, Mangoose, come on, put it up there.
Put it in there. Future Mangoose who's editing this, we want to see that, because
the one that Paragon had, I think, is great, but I think it almost gives a little too much information. right? And there's no such thing in a MOBA, right? But it's that feeling, right? If I'm an enemy sneaking up on somebody, them getting that much information feels terrible, right? And so now this to me feels like a good balance. You're telling the player, hey, there's something up behind you, but as an enemy, they don't know. Like it could be the 0-10 Kalari or it could be the 20-0 Revenant,
Yeah.
right? You don't know which one it is. And I think that is way of a much better balance between the two things. And I'm super, super stoked to see that. Though the Kayla player in me cries because I'm like, oh, wait, now I can't turn invisible and go behind people anymore. Like, it feels bad. But
well, you might still be able to, right? We don't know if that like is.
it's just if I lose my invis before I make it to them, now I can't just slowly sneak up behind him and be like, gotcha.
Luckily for you, there'll be players who aren't even paying attention to that, let alone the fact that they have a mini map, and you'll still get plenty of easy kills. So you'll be fine. It'll be fine. Relax, Kalari mains. You'll be fine. You guys will still dominate.
Thank you.
Kayla, sorry. Apologies.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on from Overprime. We've spent plenty of time on them. Let's move on to Fault, who had the recent patch 16.5.
Nope. We can't talk about that first, Mangoose. No. There is much bigger news to talk about than 16 point whatever it was. This stupid Reddit post, BuzzFeed. Saw this stupid BuzzFeed article that basically like leaks information about Fault.
BuzzFeed.
And I'm going to talk about it because this is so Fault has their big announcement stream, whatever it is, on the 13th, I believe.
Right.
And the movie One Up comes out on the 15th that features Knights of the Elder Orb. This BuzzFeed article talking about the movie talks about Fault, and it calls it Fault Elder Orb for one thing. So that would indicate a name change of some kind. And it indicates that it basically comes right out and says that Fault's going free to play in July. What? Like that's one that kind of like steals the wind out of the Fault's sales or Strange Matter sales for this article coming out ahead of them announcing it, especially because Strange Matter already promoted that this movie does exist. So anyone that's now watching the movie closely is getting information ahead of Strange Matters giving it out, which feels bad. But yeah, I mean, that's big news in both directions, be it a name change and free to play, because Mangoose might skewer me alive. Viking, what are your thoughts on this?
So, well, first the thing that you have to have read BuzzFeed to be able to even get this spoiler in the first place. So maybe only like 6 people saw it. I don't know. And you guys are 2 of them because I didn't even pull it up. I just got this through you guys because I just don't go on BuzzFeed. But it reminded me as I was thinking of that of like the King of the Hill meme of if those kids could read, they'd be really pissed about this. And so while of course I do think that it's really unprofessional in my opinion. I mean, granted, we don't know all the workings behind the scenes. Somebody maybe dropped the ball on one side, said put out an article talking about it, didn't clarify enough of what they were allowed to say and not say. Who knows? I mean, it could have been an intern working at BuzzFeed who put this thing together. Like I would imagine BuzzFeed has other things that are on their plate of articles. No,
this is not the most important thing that's going on at BuzzFeed right now.
To be honest, I don't know. Like again, I'm not one of their readers, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But
which Fault Elder Orb character are you?
Well, now I want to know.
Oh fuck. Well, I mean, I will say, like, tying into what Viking was just saying, this did come from BuzzFeed. It didn't come from Strange Matter. Mm-hmm. So, is it true or false? We don't know. Like,
it's true.
I'm still definitely
BuzzFeed is a reliable news source, Mangoose.
I'm still definitely going to tune in.
And BuzzFeed are at the top of the list for reputable news sources, Mangoose. Goodness gracious.
No, I mean, I'm still going to watch their announcement on the 13th to see if it is. Mm-hmm. Like, are they actually changing the name to that? Like, is it actually going to go free to play? I've been asking for them to go free to play for fucking ever now. Yeah, I would hate it if this is true and BuzzFeed just kind of kicked their legs out from under them when they're trying to like announce something big, because like going free to play, that's a big announcement right there.
Huge.
That's massive. Changing the name of the game, that's pretty big.
Mm-hmm. And it's effectively on the 2-year like anniversary, if you just count July as the anniversary of Fault,
Mhm.
right? It going free to play also makes sense in the 2-year anniversary of Fault, like as like a thank you for 2 years of early access. Bam, here's the game, right? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree. If this turns out to be true, bad on BuzzFeed, bad on whoever's choice it was to release this information
Right.
before the announcement, because that's just tacky.
I agree. I think that the tackiness of it is the big thing here. I mean, it is a big deal. I think it's going to be if it proves not to be true, it probably won't matter. I mean, it'll just be BuzzFeeds are dumb, right? Like that's just it. Like that'll come down. But for people like us, and now we're passing this information along. If it really is going to free to play, I mean that's a massive announcement, and they should be the ones to be able to put that out there. That should have been coming from Fault because let's be honest, we've been beating those guys up for 2 years. You know, they've deservedly so in my opinion. I think that they have a lot of shit that they but yeah, the whole BuzzFeed thing it's just a sour taste in the mouth. I think from a business perspective, and as professionals ourselves, I think we can obviously sympathize and empathize with the team and feeling like we were going to do this really cool thing. We've been planning it probably for a while. Like we know they're not massive team over there. It's not like we're talking about Blizzard putting out a new cinematic or something. Like they're pretty close knit, family type environment over there. And I think that this would have been just getting featured in a movie would have been cool, despite being in a B BuzzFeed movie. It's still cool. I would be stoked if they said, "Hey, you want to be in a movie?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I would be telling everybody about it. It doesn't matter what movie it is. So it's still an accomplishment, and I think that it does sour, and I feel bad for the Fault guys because they are working hard despite our a constant almost negativity towards them as the game as a whole. It's not for lack of effort. Like that's the part that's it's tough to sometimes when we are giving such critique is that that they're trying. It's just like it just still isn't right. It just feels off, and it's like despite best efforts, I don't know. But that's all I really have to say on that. We have been playing some Fault though. We jumped in a couple games this last week. Was fine.
It really highlighted the problems with Fault though, which is the player base just being tiny. So you get matched. So you got Viking who's like level 14 or some shit like that, and then we have Seven Heaven, the most experienced Gideon player in the game, who's like level 346, is against us. Like, how is that a thing? Like, I'm only like level 82, I think, or something like that.
Somewhere around there.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it was impressive seeing him pull off some of those plays. And I'm not gonna lie, like it was cool, but not the fact that he was like 35-2 or some nonsense or whatever. And
he beat our poor mid laner up, who was like, I think even lower level than you. And
he beat up everybody. He was no. I mean, good on him for being really good at the champion, obviously. But it soured it. I mean, for me, the biggest thing that was annoying. From obviously just the fact that it was like there's like almost no chance we won that game just because of how strong he was. He was basically able to. I think he ended up with a quadra kill, almost a pentakill if somebody wasn't like hiding in the base or something like that. So he was popping off. But the one that really frustrated me is that one guy who was just talking shit the whole game in the chat about us and our play, and I'm like, dude, like if I'm new, like I've got pretty thick skin at this point, especially with MOBAs and stuff like that, but it's like I preach that a lot on here, and like I've talked about it a lot, and it's I think we as a community we need to be better. Like if this was a new player, like if I was the new player, I'm level 12, I've only been playing maybe a handful of games, and I've got some guy shitting all over my lack of skill, I'm returning that fucking game. Like now it's gonna go free to play, hopefully, right? But that's still, I wouldn't, if it's free to play, I'm not logging back in. I'm just like, I don't want to deal with this. League of Legends has the same issue, Smite has the same issue, but we want better, right? Like that's the whole point of this stuff, is like we want Fault to be better. We want it this is not a Fault issue. This is nothing wrong with the game. This is a community issue, and I think made me more upset than almost any of the other nonsense, like the graphical issues, the pathing issues, some of the the items not being able to right click and sell or do whatever, or right click and buy. Like all those things are annoying, and that's game stuff that can be fixed. A community that just shits on new players and doesn't give them an opportunity. I don't have a problem with critique. Like if you're giving positive or like trying to help somebody be better, that's fine, but just telling them that they're shit or they don't know what they're doing or whatever, like they're somehow like the god of the game while they're going 1-6 and 2 in their lane and can't farm for shit, like like who made you fucking god of giving anybody feedback?
Well, so that's my exact feeling on that, right? Is it's one thing if you're telling your team, and not that it's okay at all, but it's one thing if you're 10-0 and your whole team is feeding their ass off and then you're flaming them. Like, come on, guys, like, what are you doing? But it's always the people that are like 1-5, worse than everybody on the team, that are then calling out the team for being terrible. Like, no, like at this point, just bring it down. It'll be okay. You had a bad game. We get it. Like, it's fine. But if in terms of going free to play makes that problem even worse.
100%.
Because right now you have to pay for the game, so there's sunk cost involved. Right? If I paid $20 into my first game, someone flames me, right? It's now I need to get my $20 out of it, or I need to return it, one way or the other. Right? Whereas when going free to play, there's literally nothing stopping me from first game in getting flamed and going like, cool, I'm out.
Yeah.
It cost me nothing, cost me 40 minutes. That's all it costs.
Uninstall.
Right?
Easy.
Exactly. There's no sunk cost to keep people playing past that first bad interaction.
That's probably the biggest reason people have given me over the years as to why they left Fault and why they refused to come back to Fault. Because they left because the abusive chat, then they returned for whatever reason or another, were abused in chat again and left. And then the other thing that always pisses me off is people's like, oh, that's just weak mental. No, weak mental is when you get so fucking upset about a video game that you verbally abuse someone that you have no idea who they are in that video game. That's weak mental. Like, if you can't take a loss and if you can't communicate effectively with somebody, that's weak mental, not getting pissed that somebody was talking shit when you barely know what the fuck you're doing. So you say fuck it and leave it because you could just be doing other things. Now, I think with free to play, I think it will increase the amount of people playing and people will have a better time with Fault because like that low player base, like the low player base combined with the toxicity of the community that stayed has worked wonders to keep Fault just from growing. And it's terrible to see.
I would love to see metrics of account creation from a curiosity perspective, right? And even if I take off the top 10% of those accounts, assuming they're Smurfs of the players that still play or whatever it is, right? If I take 10% off of that figure as a whole, I bet that number is astounding of how many people have made an account on Fault versus what the concurrent player base is.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I almost argue too, not that I think Mangus is necessarily wrong, but like if you're free to play and, this player base that's currently available is so toxic, so skill-based, probably better than most players who would be coming in, like it's going to be that this trial by fire is going to be too much. I think I think it actually can make the game worse. I think it could actually hurt the game a lot more because this is you very rarely get positive feedback. You almost always get negative feedback. And if you have, let's say, an influx of huge amount of players that come into this game and their first few, let's say 24 hours or 2 days on it over the weekend or something like that is getting flamed, toxic chat, not understanding the game, bugs, the all those things that we already know about the game, plus all the other stuff, they're going to go in there. Steam reviews are going to get even worse than they already are. They're going to tell their friends, oh, nah, dude, I played that game. It sucks. People are douchebaggy. Let's just keep playing Smite. At least we know that game, or whatever. Or let's go back to playing whatever game we were playing before. Let's play, it's just, that's my concern. Like, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I know more negative reviews are going to come out than positive reviews if more people, and again, this is a community thing. Like, we as the community, I'm going to be there, right? If they announce it free to play and that first weekend that it's free to play and they're asking, I'll be there. I'll be part of it. I mean, I was even trying to give that guy, like, hey man, chill out. Like, this is, we're just trying to play the game or whatever it was that I said. But I was trying to be like nice to the guy and try and get him to like calm down and relax and pull away and be like, bro, like, but he was doubling down. He wanted to say more stuff. Like, and it's like, so yeah, I just, anybody who's watching this, anybody who, sees this, and if you have any impact on the community at all, be a positive one. Like, if you're one of the best players in the game, if you're the god tier Gideon on there, teach that Gideon that's across from you. Talk to people about how to put out better like videos on how to be good at the game. Like, do something positive so that way you have someone to fucking play against. Because I tell you what, right now, if this goes free to play and it bombs, the game's gonna die. It's just they're not gonna be able to keep it up. This is probably the last big push, which is why it's a big deal that fucking BuzzFeed released this stuff beforehand, because this is it probably. I just don't know how they can financially continue to support it with 300 player base. And if it goes free to play and it's still 300 player base, how are they going to get any kind of funding at all to do anything? It's just never going to happen.
They need to get players in the thousands, not the hundreds, if it's going to be successful, because that means those thousands of players will be playing each other, all learning together, not a couple hundred people coming in and getting matched with the couple hundred that are already there and just getting.
They need to make the players that play the game now become dwarfed in terms of the player size.
Yeah,
that those players that are playing now get spread across 300 games. And then there's 9 other new people in all of those games, right? That needs to be that big a success. They need to break their all-time concurrent in that first weekend. And I think they have the potential to do so. Sure. Something that's really, really good for Fault going free to play is now there is no excuse for these other Paragon refugees, right? Before, because if you go to a Predecessor player and say, have you tried Fault? Well, no, I'm not paying $20 for that.
Right.
Now what? Now what's your excuse?
Yeah.
Right. And what then it's going to really show who's a fan of Paragon and who's bandwagoning. Right. Because like I get not wanting to spend $20. Fine. Like I won't fault anybody on their monetary situation. Right.
Fault.
But now no. Fault Elder Orb now. Thank you.
Oh, well, not confirmed. Not confirmed.
Right. But now you tell the Predecessor player, go ahead, let's queue up on Fault, free to play. Right. Like that could be really good for them and potentially detrimental for these other Paragon communities, Paragon successor communities. Predecessor more than Overprime. In that now these Predecessor players can go into Fault for free and play that game, right? If they do a good job and they stick that landing, that could be very, very good for them. And I really hope that they do.
Yeah. I mean, again, I agree, and I know we're going way over on time on this one, but it was a big packed episode. But I guess I don't like putting the full blame on a company because there's only so much that they can do. Like even the biggest companies in the world try their hardest to foster a positive environment for their players. At the end of the day, the players themselves need to be the ones doing it. And okay, listen. I'm not opposed to shit talking. I'm not opposed to, emoting, flexing, doing some of that stuff and being proud of your gameplay. But don't be proud of your gameplay because you have, 1,000 hours on Gideon and the other guy that you just played against has 4. You know what I mean? Like you're not a god. You know what I mean? Like you just beat it. Or if you are a god, then you just squished an ant. Like, okay, cool. Big fucking deal, bro. Like you know what I mean? Like if you're anything like me, I mean, I'm not claiming to be by any means a great competitive player, but when I play, I want to play against people who are as close to my skill level as possible. And we do this in the games that we play right now for beta males. Like sometimes we'll have a match and it's back and forth and it's hard fought win. I feel so much more gratified in that win. Like, man, that was a tough one, dude. Like we were really evenly matched and it felt good that we came out with the win. Or if we lost, hey man, it was close, man. We were really going at it. Like, I can't believe it. GG's, bros. We as a community need to do a better job. We and I mean collectively, like we need to be proactive on making, if you care about Fault or you care about Paragon or you just want to be able to play a game until one of these other ones comes out, I don't care. Be nice. Be positive. Help new people. If you're never played Fault, but you're a Paragon, pro back in the day, and you're coming into this, and it's going to feel fairly same to you, understand that some people might be bringing their friends in. Like, remember when we brought Paul in, and Paul had never played a game like this before, and people were, and this was when Fault first came out, and people were so mean to him. Like, they were so mean to him. Now, granted, he's a gamer, and he's, he didn't, like, cry or anything, but, like, it was a downside. We're like, fuck, man, do we even really want to keep playing this, or do you want to go play something else? And he was willing to stick it out, but it sucked that, like, we were just reading in chat him, like, these people just shitting on him, and he had an hour in the game, never played Paragon, never played a MOBA before, and people were just so negative. And I know that that's still happening now because we see it all over the place. And I just stop, be better, boys.
Yeah.
Like,
I've
be
said
better.
it several times on this show, but a high tide raises all ships, right? If you make Fault a better game as a community member, Fault will be a better game, right? Like and everyone will get better along with it. And that's what you should be striving for, right? That you
100%.
shouldn't be trying to bring everyone down. You shouldn't be doing all of that stuff. High tide raises all ships, right? Whatever
I
you
agree.
can do to raise that tide, you should be doing.
Yeah.
Pull
If you
yourself
really want
up,
your
don't
game to
push others
survive.
down. But
Yep.
let's move on to the patch. God damn it.
Uh,
So I'm not going to dig through every part of the patch notes. We'll say opportunist, one of their aspects, one of the purple aspects. Isolation is now based off of nearby allied heroes instead of enemy heroes. So this gave you extra damage when you were isolated away from any other heroes. It used to be if you were going into like duo lane, you didn't get the opportunist buff because there was more than one person there. Now you'll still get, as long as your duo is far enough back and you're ganking, you're still going to get that extra damage on the carry, even though their support is right next to them. Warlock, which used to give you on every 4th ability activation, you got an extra, I think 30% damage on that ability. It was fucking chunking people and hurting pretty hard. They changed that now so that you restore 20% of your maximum mana over 3 seconds on leveling up, and you get 5% max mana restored over 3 seconds for every hero, kill, or assist. So it's now more of a mana management thing. Countess got some buffs. Feng Mao got some nerfs. Lieutenant Bellica got some major changes. As you may know, if you are a fan of Fault, she used to have her drone would follow her and fire along with her. That was her passive. That's gone. It is now her passive is she deals more damage in general the lower her opponent is on mana. So that's her Neural Disruptor, her Seismic Slam, her Void Bomb, everything. And they did say that her Void Drone, her E, which does not suck mana now, they want to try and change that so that it fits in a little better with her new passive, which would be nice because right now that is a completely ignored ability for Lieutenant Bellica. Phase, they redid the way she scales a lot, and they took away a lot of her offensive abilities, and took away some of the slowing abilities with her Psychic Lance. They just felt that she was frustrating for players to play against. I didn't think FaZe needed a nerf in Fault. I personally think she's a bit weak, but a lot of people were complaining about her. And Severall got a well-needed, well-deserved buff to his Siphon, which gives him his stacks. And that's all I'm going to go through with for the patch notes for Fault. And you guys have anything to say about the patch notes?
No.
Only thing is that Bellica passive change. She's been a terror in Fault since the game came out. Giving all of her abilities extra damage effectively for free is a bit concerning to look at. Granted, I don't play Bellica. I have not played Bellica with this change either. But just on paper, that sounds really scary. I would have loved to see them put that on the passive. I think that's okay, but bring her abilities just down a touch to compensate for that difference.
Yeah.
Because if you assume that an enemy that you're fighting on Bellica, especially in the early game and mid lane, is anywhere between 50 and 100% mana for the majority of the times that you're going to be in combat with them, that balances out with a slight damage nerf to her regular abilities to then be about equal to what they were before or slightly better depending. And I think that would have been better. I think just giving her flat damage increase is a bit scary, but
without
we'll have to wait
balancing
and
her
see.
at all with it.
Yeah.
It's a
On
big nerf.
paper, very scary change, that's for sure.
It's a big nerf to people who would do like a sort of a hybrid build with Bellica with like Mage's Crossbow and stuff that would increase her basic attack damage and her attack speed. But for people like me that would build her just straight energy damage, this is just a huge all around buff for Bellica. All right, boys. That I think is going to about wrap it up for this week. This was a huge episode.
I just really quick one thing. I just want to give a small or maybe big shout out to Real Easy. We did play a game against him, and he was this Barrow, it was a fun battle. He kicked my ass. But he was no, but it was cool getting to see somebody who obviously is active in our community here and see him in game and I think he sent you a message, right, Mangoose, afterwards
Oh no,
saying
that
something.
Joey VG Gamer, who was also
Oh, Joey. Okay, yeah, but either way,
very
it was
active.
yeah, it was cool getting to see somebody playing the game that we obviously interact with in the videos and stuff like that. So shout out to you. Thank you for kicking my ass in the game. It was fun getting to see because I was like, oh, it's Sparrow. I remember when this was in my head. I was like, oh, I'm gonna destroy this lane. This will be great.
I landed that hook on her at the very beginning, and we almost killed her. And then from then
Yeah,
on, I don't think I landed
it was
a
over.
second. Yeah.
Yeah,
All we did was poke the fucking hornet's nest.
Yeah, we just made him pissed. But no, I wanted to give a shout out to him because he did reach out in the comment of the last video, asking, telling me some stuff that I could do to try and improve my experience. And so it didn't work, by the way. I tried to do, but I couldn't find the DirectX stuff. So, but some of the other settings kept literally. What was one of the games, like we got in and all of our settings changed or whatever, and we all dropped massive amounts of frames. It was like it wasn't just isolated. It was like all of us, right? I think it was. So I don't know, something weird.
So much because I keep my cap at 60, but
for me it was. But anyway, that was it. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to him because it was cool getting to run into him.
Yeah.
Well, after that announcement and hearing Vikings saying that he got his ass kicked, I have one last announcement as well. We have a new spot open for an 80 carry, real easy. If you want to open up and apply.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh, poor Viking.
It's fine.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Appreciate you everybody sticking out for us. I know this was a long one. We had a lot to cover this time around.
Beefy episode.
If you're still there, I love you. I love you for keeping on watching. And if you watch this whole video through as the video itself, then that's pretty damn cool.
The Premiere guys, let's go Premiere team.
Let us know in the comments below too, like what you think about all of these different changes. I'm sure people are going to let us know in the comments that how much Jelly hates Predecessor after our Pred announcements. And,
You never pick on me, really. I feel like I give Predecessor a pretty hard time, but maybe I'm a little bit more
Jelly,
like...
and you haven't been doing it for as long as Jelly has.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe... yeah, I don't know. But yeah, they really do love to give Jelly a hard time about it. And you guys are all very welcome for all the ethereal stuff. I've been working in the behind the scenes.
Jelly's YouTube and Twitch will be linked in the video description below, and Vikings Twitter will also be linked in the video description below. But for this week, this is the For the Minions crew signing off. You guys have a good one. Mangoose! Special shout out to channel members I, Bloodhunter, Jelly Knees, Meow Mix for Men, Stunt, Raven, and Blastoise King.